The fire of truth turned everything into ash. The weather was very alluring. The entire area was covered with a thick sheet of snow, and bright sunlight was shining everywhere. The light golden color reflecting upon the pile of snow embellished the entire surroundings. The entire scenario was ratiocinating an ecstatic mood. It's New Year Eve, and the city was bustling with lots of people. In all those happiness, Christine was sitting quietly, sipping her coffee, and enjoying the beautiful atmosphere in a grandiose mansion. She was deep in a thought, and from her facial expression, no one could determine what exactly she was thinking. Suddenly, one servant knocked at the door. "Madam, please get ready soon. The guests will start coming after being silent for some moment." She replied with a sweet smile on her face. "I'm coming within 20 minutes. After the departure of the maid, she sighed and murmured to herself, "Mom, Daddy, I wish you were here today. I miss you a lot. I will avenge you. Don't worry." While saying those words, tears started streaming down her rosy cheeks, and she quietly wiped it and stood up. It was really a big day for the Bentley family. After all, it's the 20th birthday of the so-called Princess of Sacramento. Christine was born in a filthy rich family of Sacramento and lost her mother when she was only 10 years old. Her mother was the daughter-in-law of the Lord of Bentley family, and also the acclaimed heiress. Her grandfather was the patriarch of the family, blessed with a daughter and a son, but unfortunately his son was not worthy of inheriting the prestige of the Bentley family, and he also didn't find his daughter fitted such an eminent post, so he transferred all his power and wealth to his one and only daughter-in-law, Mary. She was a very intelligent, smart, and diligent lady, and was a very capable personality to retain the prosperity of the Bentley family. But, unfortunately, she had a very sadistic ending. After some moment, when Christine was heading towards her walking wardrobe, at that moment, her aunt appeared and handed her a beautiful dress, said with a charming smile on her face, "Dear, get ready and quickly come to the ballroom. All the guests arrived." Christine replied sternly, "There is no profit in treating me so well. I'm never going to hand you over the property. I will retain the prestige which my grandfather handed over to my mom. Better, don't waste your energy here." But her aunt was not disappointed with her gruesome response, rather, and she softly exclaimed, "Sweetie, I think you misjudged me. Over all these years, I never intended to snatch the power. I just want to take care of you for my sister-in-law. I trust that whatever my dad did must have a concrete reasoning. Maybe I am not that capable to be the descendant of the Bentley family. Rather, I'm also not interested in all these complications. Auntie, I know everything. Don't try to fool me with your sugar-coated words. I know that my mom's death was not an accident. Rather, it's a planned murder," said Christine with grimace. "Fine, let's not talk about this anymore. Get ready soon." Her aunt left, cutting off their conversation halfway. Bentley family was a very rich family which had their business ventures in many parts of the country, and outsiders have no clue that how much money they actually retain. They were a very reputable personality in Sacramento for at least more than 50 years. When Christine's mother inherited the family's wealth, she also proliferated the prosperity. But, unfortunately, she was poisoned, and while her husband was rushing with her to a hospital, they met with a horrific car accident. After years of investigations, no one was found to be the murderer, and the case was closed, but according to Christine's deductions, her aunt must have done that for acquiring her family treasures. But she had no idea that after devising such a flawless plan, why her aunt still treasured her so much. She could have killed her at any moment. Maybe she was waiting for her 20th birthday after that. She could easily steal everything because before her mother's death, she devised a will that on Christine's 20th birthday, all the property and wealth will be transferred to her. So she decided to choose the easy way of just taking advantage of her innocence and naivety for extracting the wealth without committing any crimes. Thus, no matter how her aunt treated her, she always responded icily. When she entered the ballroom at that instant, the entire room was bustling with lots of guests. She slowly strove towards the center, and soon her aunt declared, "I am very thankful to each and everyone for coming here and blessing Christine. From now on, she will be representing our family and will be known as the matriarch of the Bentley family." As soon as she finished, a thunderous clapping filled the entire room, and Christine was bewilderedly looking at her aunt, because, according to her prospect, her aunt shouldn't be announcing that statement in front of so many people. Detecting her baffled gaze, her aunt whispered to her with a brightening smile, "Congratulations, child. I hope now you can understand that I had no ulterior motives, and I wish that you can successfully promote the prestige of our family in respect of your mom and your grandfather." After she heard her aunt saying those words, her eyes glistened with tears, but she maintained her cold expressions. In the midst of the celebration, suddenly a young and handsome guy approached her with a gentle smile. "Hi, congratulations, Miss Christine." "Thank you so much," she responded blatantly. "I need to talk with you about some important matter. Can you please come with me?" said the man. "You can say it here." "I can't," he responded with a stern expression. "What is it that you can't say here? Are you a hired assassin of my aunt?" asked Christine with a smirk. The man replied with a chuckle, "You are just misunderstanding me. I am not here to cause any harm to you. I just want to disclose a truth to you, and I hope that you will be eager to know it." Christine had a tough exterior, and she never trusts anybody too much, and it was a mere outsider. Her inclinations were quite similar to her mother, and she was much more sensible than any other girls of her age. "Do you think I am a fool?" replied Christine with a cold glare. The man just smiled faintly, and without saying any more words, he handed a photo to Christine and said softly, "Trust me, I won't hurt you. I just want to tell you about your mother." It was a photo of her mother, happily standing beside the man, who was currently in front of Christine. She froze as soon as she saw the photo, and she said out, "Where do you want to go?" The lips of the mysterious man curved into a smile, and he generously added, "Let's go to the nearby cafe, then." Christine nodded and said, "Fine, but am going to bring 2 of my bodyguards." She was not at all ready to lower her guard at any moment. Within half an hour, both of them reached a very low-profile cafe. The bodyguards were waiting outside the cafe. "They choose a table in a corner. Tell me what you want to say," interjected Christine anxiously. Then the man placed a blue-color file on the table and said, "Miss, please have a look upon this paper." Christine quickly grabbed the file and started examining it meticulously. Soon her expression stiffened, and she became more serious than ever. After carefully going through the papers, she was flabbergasted. Detecting her gaze, the man interjected, "Miss, I am very sorry, but yes, it's your father who killed your mother for power." Christine was still not ready to accept the bitter truth, and was looking at the man with glistened eyes. Then the man started foretelling the entire incident. "Your mother was tricked by your father, and she was forced to admit defeat to him only for your safety." Christine said nothing, and was just listening to him while tears were continuously rolling down her cheeks. The man continued, "When you were 10 years old, your father sent you in an outskirt area, and his forces were so strong that your mother's men was not able to crack. He threatened her with your life, so she was compelled to act according to his instructions. She went to a desolated plot of land under Bentley family's ownership with your father. But in the way she was able to get your location, and she immediately instructed her forces. But sadly, Your father was a quick-witted person and managed to prick her with a poisoned needle. Your father's plan was flawless, but your mother was more intelligent than him. That's the reason she was chosen. As the matriarch of the Bentley family, the car they were riding had no brakes, and it was done by your mother. This is how they died in a car accident. The man told the entire incident to her with proper reasoning in one go. Christine was totally shocked, but still, after some moment of silent cries, she questioned the man with shaking voice. What if my dad hadn't poisoned my mom? Then she would have died without any reason. Mom, if your father hadn't done that, she would have definitely rescued herself. She already arranged some forces for the rescue operation, but your father was intended to kill her, so he managed to wipe off her forces. If he was not intended to do that, they would have never scouted the area before leaving. Your father was not a man to be underestimated, the man exclaimed patiently. Christine was shaking convulsively from the shocking news, and she slowly said out, "It means my mom lost her life only to save me? Was he actually my father?" "He just married your mother because of your grandfather's compulsions. He already had a lover abroad who had 2 kids of his butt. He just sacrificed to get the family wealth. But unfortunately, your grandfather transferred it to your mother, so all his efforts went into vain. That's why, as soon as your grandfather passed, he devised that treacherous plan," the man replied calmly. There were a lot of questions circling in her mind, so she questioned him one after the other. "He is such a despicable man, I feel ashamed to even think that he was my father." But killing her was not his only solution. He could have transferred the property to his name. "I believe Mom can never be so greedy," questioned Christine with tear-stained face. "You are right. He could have done that, but your grandfather already made clear that only your mother can transfer the property to her kid, not anyone else, so doing that was meaningless. Your grandfather had a strong sense of judgment, and he knew his son thoroughly." The man answered everything to her with proper explanations. After listening everything, Christine cried out loudly, as she was not able to control her emotions anymore. The man said nothing to convince her, he just sat there quietly. Within half an hour, Christine was able to control the emotional turmoil, and she slowly said out, "Thanks to you for letting me know the truth. It really feels like my life changed within some mere hours. But young man, can I know that who are you, and how did you know so many things?" The man let out a sigh and said with a complicated expression on his face, "I used to live my life on streets, and when I was only 14 years old, your mom took me with her at that moment. I was severely injured because a motorbike hit me. From that day, I never left her sight. I was like her shadow, and I also wanted to go with her, but didn't want me to die, and kept me alive for completing this task. She was my only family, my mother, father, sister, and my everything, but I am such a worthless person that I couldn't save her from that demon." As soon as he finished his words, tears rolled down his tough face. He continued, "Trust me, I wanted to save her. I even went to the cops with these proofs, but sadly nobody trusted me, and I was even sentenced to 5 years of imprisonment by your grandmother for spreading fake accusations on the young master of the Bentley family." "I trust you," said Christine softly. The man blurted out, "Emotionally, you are just like my senior sister." Christine just responded with a faint smile and stood up to leave. But the man said out, "Miss, I need to say you something else." Christine responded with a baffled expression. "What is it?" The man exclaimed with utmost sincerity, "Do you want to talk with your mother?" Hearing his question, Christine froze for some moment, then triumphantly responded, "Is it really possible?" She got to know a lot of things so suddenly. On her 20th birthday, everything feels like a blow to her. The man replied, "I hope you know that senior sister was very interested in the research about the life after death. She used to know a lot of things about that field, and I also learned many things from her. Before going with your father, She requested me to tell everything about her sacrifice after you inherit the wealth. She wished to bless you and interact with you if she died in that incident. So I am asking for your opinion. If you are interested, then only we will perform the process to interact with your mother." Christine was very poignant, blithely exclaimed, obviously. "Fine then, let's move." To carry out the process of essence, they both headed to Mary's bungalow, where she loved to spend time. During the journey, Christine called her aunt. "Hello, Christine. Where are you? Why you left in the middle of the celebration?" Her aunt questioned out of concern. "Aunt, I'm fine. I just came to meet up with a friend." "Aunt, sorry for everything I said to you all these years. I know that you care for me, and I love you," she said with a shaky voice. Her aunt was totally bewildered with her response and sensed something was wrong, so she quickly replied, "Silly child, where are you? Come home soon. I will be waiting for you." She hung up the call. Soon they reached the bungalow, and everything was already prepared. That man was going to be the host of the process. The entire room was dark. Only one candle was lighted. The entire atmosphere was very eerie, and she could feel the goosebumps all over her body. For some reason, an ominous feeling crept through her spine, but she eagerly wanted to interact with her mother after so many years. Soon the process began. Christine just sat quietly, and the candlelight started flickering. The table started shaking terribly. Kristen got a hair-raising feeling, but she still maintained her composure. Then the man signaled her to speak, and she started calling her mom with a shaking voice. "Mom, are you here? Mom, can you hear me?" No replies came, but the furniture of the room started wobbling petrifyingly. Christine was scared out of her wits and was totally soaked in sweat, but she continued calling her mother. Then, suddenly, everything came back to normal position. The candlelight also stabilized, and a creepy silence prevailed everywhere. Even the man executing the entire process was sitting just like a stoned person, without even blinking. Christine could only hear her own breathing. At that moment, Christine wailed out, "Mom, can you hear me?" Then a hoarse voice responded her baby, "How are you?" "It's your daddy here." After hearing that, Christine shrieked, and the only one candle lighted in the entire bungalow blew off. "Sudesha Kar. Write what you know." Mr. Edwards was a whiskey-nosed man who taught English at Gainsborough Comprehensive. He wore a green tweed jacket with leather elbow patches and was pretty crazy at the best of times, but today he was in overdrive. He scribbled his literary tip for the day across the blackboard in 4 giant powdery words. When he'd written the last one, he underlined it several times with a piece of red chalk and turned to face the class. "Write. What? You? No." Edwards was emphatic. He spoke as if each word was a separate sentence, thumping his fist beneath his story-writing commandment as he retraced his steps. "If you want to be a successful writer, then take heed." He stood before the class and looked at the students the way a farmer might observe his failed crops after the wettest summer on record. Morgan Wainwright yawned. He was busy writing on his desk. Nothing as profound as Edward's teachings, but still pretty impressive stuff. He had a knack for making words seem like they rhymed with other words, when they clearly didn't, especially rude ones. His head was down, dark hair dangling. He never even heard the teacher coming. Edward strolled across the wooden floorboards, hands behind his back. He put on his spectacles and leaned over the unsuspecting student. Morgan looked up, cheeks flushed. "Toilet humor. Most amusing." Edwards studied the boy's desktop ramblings through narrowed eyes. "Tell me, boy, have you actually listened to anything I've said this afternoon?" Morgan said nothing. "I'll take that as a no." The unfazed and unsmiling Mr. Edwards pointed at the blackboard. I want you to write me an essay, and you need to possess a comprehensive understanding of the subject that you are writing about. Let's make it 1,000 words. No, let's be generous and make it 2,000. On my desk first thing tomorrow. And you need to be damned sure you know what you are talking about, boy, or I will find out and your miserable life will not be worth living. A cold October evening, pint in hand, and I'm sitting in the Red Lion pub. It's pissing down outside. The place reeks of cannabis and damp leather, and the DJ's got big hair and flares. I swore I'd never go to a school reunion, but here I am in a darkened corner getting depressed and thinking how old everyone got. I don't like the past, and I definitely don't like people from the past popping up in the present. I'm in my 50s. For Christ's sake, divorce and debt kicking me in the balls for ticking all the wrong boxes in life. Why would I want to be reminded of when life was even worse? Through the dancing crowd, I see the mannequin figure of Morgan Wainwright, turquoise cocktail and shirt to match. He found me on Facebook and persuaded me to come tonight. That's the only reason I'm here. He used to sit next to me in English lessons, spent most of his time writing obscene limericks on his desk. He sees me staring and wanders over. David. He raises his glass and smiles. How you doing? I'm a bit drunk, I say. But I got married once. Morgan looks interested. Any kids? Yeah, but it wasn't mine, so I'm kind of unmarried these days. Oh. Morgan sips his drink. 2, 4, 6, 8 by the Tom Robinson Band throbs through the sticky atmosphere, and the crowd rocks the joint like it's 1977 all over again. Morgan looks around, starts pointing out people I don't recognize with names I've never heard of. The more he talks, the more he reminds me of how much I hated school. He's all rose-tinted glasses and bubbling with bullshit anecdotes about the good old days and how much simpler life was back then. You're talking like you enjoyed it, I say. It wasn't that bad. What about Mr. Edwards? You gotta remember that bastard. I do. Morgan's face darkens. Got stabbed to death in the park. Not that I give a shit. He fucking deserved it. I reckon loads of people wanted him dead. Most of them were school kids. And he was queer. The words spill from my lips before I even think about what I'm saying. Not that I care about any political correctness crap, but I know Morgan is gay, and he's the sort of guy who probably does. I don't want to offend him. He's the only reason I came tonight. Who told you that? He asks. He just was. It's a crap answer, and Morgan knows it. He flutters his fingers at a group of women dancing around their handbags. It might as well be witches around a cauldron, judging by the state of them. 47 stab wounds. I eyeball the crowd and examine the faces to see which ones might fit in my mesh of a memory. I'm not bothered to ask who anybody is because I don't care. I've already found who I'm looking for. Throat, chest, and groin. Ripped to fucking ribbons that bastard was. I've still got all the newspaper reports. I remember it, Morgan says. So do I. Same day, he made you write that story for scribbling on your desk. Morgan nods. Shame he wasn't around to read it. Best thing I ever wrote. It was nothing unusual for Mr. Edwards to go for a late-night walk. It helped him unwind and forget his troubles for a while. But tonight, he was struggling. He couldn't stop thinking about that obnoxious boy and the obscenities he'd carved into his desk. The boy had talent. Why be so damn negative about it? Edward sighed, head bowed, glazed eyes glinting above the silk scarf wrapped across his lower face. He wore a hat and long coat, like the invisible man dressed when he wanted people to see him. Ironic, because the last thing Edwards needed was to draw attention to himself. Imagine being recognized at this late hour, especially by one of his students. They'd want to know where he was going, what he was up to. He hurried down the street, hands in pockets, breath swirling in steamy clouds beneath the streetlights. Hey-ho! Unsteady on his feet, he crossed the road, entered the park, and wandered into the darkness. I lost my virginity to Jenny Jones at the summer disco. Last year of school. She looks older now, and much rounder, but she's still fucking voluptuous. That's a word I learned from Mr. Edwards. Not the word fucking, although he did give us a lecture on swearing once. I mean the word voluptuous. It means sexy, but that's not quite the way he explained it. He said it was directed toward or concerned with sensuous enjoyment and sensual pleasure. He meant sexy. Jenny weaves through the party, dancing in a black dress that looks sprayed on with bitumen. She escapes the crowd, her dance turning into a kind of hip-swaying feline walk. And what are you boys plotting? The sweetness of her voice hits a long-lost nerve somewhere deep inside of me, and I remember I loved her once, before the 5-second fuck behind the school hall. The spark kind of went after that. How you doing, Jen? Morgan asks. I'm well, thanks, she says. How about you? We're discussing the untimely demise of Mr. Edwards. I raise my glass as if toasting the memory, and for a moment, I wonder what my life would have been like if I'd married Jenny instead of the cheating bitch I ended up with. Jenny frowns and moves in closer. She leans over Morgan, her low-cut dress flashing ample cleavage. He was gay, wasn't he? That's what got him killed. Morgan rolls his eyes, checks his watch. Mr. Edwards could always find someone at this time of night. Kids out to make a few quid for not much work. Glue sniffers, usually. He didn't trouble himself with the morals of prostitution or underage sex. It was business, after all. Supply and demand. Basic economics. That's how capitalism worked. Edwards hummed random notes beneath his breath, the wet grass splashing beneath his feet. He thought of the boy writing on the desk. He wondered what the boy would write about in his essay tonight, and his cock jumped at the idea it might be 2,000 words of pure filth. Content with the thought, Edwards marched deeper into the darkness, toward the toilets behind the tennis courts. He approached the block building, a concrete square, metal grids bolted on the windows. It looked like a Nazi gas chamber. The glow of fluorescent light streamed through the open doorway, where a figure leaned against the wall, cigarette in hand. A plume of smoke poured from the boy's lips. He was in profile, a silhouette in the night. One leg bent, the sole of his foot flat on the wall. He turned his head. You looking for business, mate? Edward's pulse quickened. Blow job, 10 quid. Cigarette smoke swirled around the boy's head. You want it? Edwards unbuttoned his coat, unzipped his pants, hat, and scarf, still masking his face. Yes, please. The boy stepped out the doorway, boot heels clicking on the paving. He flicked the cigarette into the darkness and walked with the same deliberate pace a certain teacher might use when creeping up on an unsuspecting student. The boy floated through the night, flashed a knife in the moonlight. It thumped into Edward's chest, hitting him so hard he toppled like a statue. And the boy was on him in a frenzied pummeling of serrated blade and torn flesh. They grappled like mud wrestlers, only this mud was warm and sticky and smelled like copper pennies. Jenny disappears as mysteriously as she emerged. Back on the dance floor, she flirts with some guy wearing star-shaped sunglasses and a stick-on mohawk. Morgan examines his empty glass, looks at her, then back to me. What does she know about it anyway? Bet she doesn't know there were 47 knife wounds. I look at Morgan the way I used to look at Mr. Edwards after reading a word I wasn't sure how to pronounce. You know, they never even found his fucking cock. Morgan narrows his eyes, leans across the table. He looks haunted, as if he deals with people recalling gruesome homicides every day of his life. Did they really put that in the newspapers? Urban myth. I touch his fingers, cold and stiff. That's cruel. Yeah, but you wanted him dead, same as the rest of us. Morgan grips my hand. Mr. Edwards said I needed to be sure I knew what I was writing about, or he would find out. So I followed him into the park. I was going to watch him have sex with some kid and record every detail. You were there? Morgan smiles, uncrosses his legs, and pulls a folded sheet of paper from his pocket. He slides it across the table. Nowhere near 2,000 words, he says. But it's a pretty good description of what happened. I unfold the paper and read the story, words jumping out at me like punches to the head. I read and reread. Double-check the details. All written down in black and white. Every gory detail. He saw it all. No one knows what you did. Morgan pulls the paper from my fingers, a cigarette lighter in his other hand. The flame is alight, already licking at the corner of his work. It takes hold, blue and orange, dancing in the dark. Best it stays that way. 2. Dying perfume. Sleep paralysis is a devastating condition. I was 7 when I first had sleep paralysis. My mother tucked me in that night. I could remember the citrus fragrance of her perfume. Her scent would always comfort me. After she tucked me in, I quickly drifted off to sleep. The night seemed quiet, but the peaceful atmosphere in my bedroom didn't last. I woke up around midnight. A smothering sweat drenched my little body. I couldn't move my arms and legs. I could only move my eyes and my lips. It took my eyes some time to adjust to the thick darkness in my room. While my eyes were struggling to see, that's when I heard it. I could hear it snorting. A dreadful feeling came over me when I heard the inhuman sound. I could see someone standing in my closet after my eyes adjusted. It peeked at me from behind my closet door. It stood there for a minute, snorting at me. When it lurched out of my closet, I finally saw its full body shape. Its elongated arms stretched out like tree branches. It was tall, but it had a feminine shape. It looked like a deformed 7-foot-tall naked woman. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. It felt like something paralyzed my vocal cords. After this shadowy figure stepped out of my closet, it stood in the corner of my room with its arms out. It would release a guttural, snorting sound every few minutes. The sound was sickening. It reminded me of someone hawking and spitting on the ground. I could see this figure. I'm listening to the horrible noises it's making while I'm paralyzed. The moonlight came in through my bedroom window. It illuminated a part of the shadow woman's arm. Her skin looked like mud. It didn't look burnt, just darker than dirt. All I could see was her one arm stretched out across my bedroom wall, bathed in the moonlight. My mind kept trying to figure out what she was. I thought I was looking at a demon for the first time. Or possibly the devil. Movement occurred, but not from me. I still couldn't move my body, no matter how hard I tried. It felt like invisible hands were holding my arms and legs down. The movement came from the shadow woman. I watched in horror as she made a step toward the foot of my bed. She would take one step, and then she'd hesitate for a minute before taking her next step. Her awkward hesitation sent more chills through my body than her measured baby steps. I knew she was going to kill me if I didn't move. Frustration tortured me just as bad as my fear. I didn't know what this thing was or why it was in my bedroom. I didn't know what it wanted. The scary stories that my dad told me about the boogeyman came back to me. So I had this naked creature creeping toward me while I'm thinking about my dad's story and how he told me the boogeyman captures children at night and they never come back. Thanks a lot, Dad. I wanted to move so badly. I wanted to scream. It felt like I was fighting my body. The voice in my mind yelled at my body, telling it to move. The dark woman mocked me with her hesitant steps. She inched closer and closer to the foot of my bed with her arms stretched wide open. A crazy thought went through my head. Since I couldn't move my body, I thought maybe my feelings would be numb. I assumed the creature would viciously attack me, but at least I wouldn't feel the pain. I could see her long fingernails pointing out at me, and I knew those fingernails would be the first thing to dig into my body. No pain. Please, no pain. This is what I kept telling myself. Just be calm, Miranda. When the monster grabs you, you won't feel it. It won't hurt. Your body is numb, so you won't feel a thing. Tears were in my eyes while I was telling myself this. I wanted my mom to save me. I wanted to see my mom's face, and I wanted to smell her perfume. I wanted to call out to my dad. My dad told me to never be afraid of anything, and that's what I tried to do. Time was running out for me. My urge to move was so strong that I started imagining that I could move my arms and legs. I thought I could move my arm, but it was just an hallucination. This was torture. Why was this happening to me? I was just a kid. I just turned 7, and now I was going to die on the day after my birthday. I'll never go to high school and meet new friends. I'll never graduate from college. I'll never get married. I'll never find out what it's like to be a mom. The best thing I could do was close my eyes. I didn't want to see it attack me. I just buried my eyelids in my tears. I said a prayer that my mother taught me. My lips and my voice were still useless, so I had to say the prayer in my head. Prayer repeated in my mind. My mom and dad taught me to believe in God. I needed God to save me. My mother always told me I was God's child, and He had His angels watching over me. I wanted His angels to save me that night, and I didn't see them. A demon was lurking itself toward my bed, and God was just going to sit there and watch this demon kill His child. My young mind couldn't understand what was happening. I thought the dark figure was a demon, a little girl who knew for sure she would die in her bed. More chills traveled up and down my spine when I opened my eyes to see the giant shadow woman standing over the foot of my bed. She changed her position. Before I closed my eyes, her arms were spread out as if she wanted to hug me. When I opened my eyes, she was standing motionless in front of me with her long finger over her lips. She was telling me not to make a sound. I couldn't make a sound anyway, so when I saw her holding her finger to her lips, it didn't matter to me. My situation turned upside down when I heard something else. Something unexpected happened. There was evil in my room. But the evil that stepped into my room was not the shadow woman. I remembered hearing the news reports of missing children in the town. My mom wouldn't let me out of her sight whenever we would go to the store. There were reports of a crazed man in a clown costume going around abducting children. The police were searching for him. They couldn't find him, but they found his aftermath. They found 2 missing children dead in a wooded area. As a child, I couldn't completely comprehend the danger. When you're a child, you want to play with your friends. I wanted to play with the other little girls in the neighborhood, but my mom would always keep me close to her side. On my birthday, I went to an amusement park, but I couldn't enjoy myself because I would go from being in my mom's arms to being in my dad's arms, constantly being carried around the park like a doll. I hated this smothering, overprotective behavior from my mother. She passed her paranoia to my father, who would normally allow freedom in my playtime. My childhood freedom ended for a little while because of this child-killing bastard. Somehow the killer entered our home through the basement window. He stayed hidden in our home for 2 days. This is how he broke into other people's homes, and he would hack into alarm systems and shut them off. Most of the missing children news reports involved children being taken from their homes in the dead of night without their parents even knowing what happened. A few days later, they'd find out that their child's naked body was found in a nearby pond or in a dumpster. Mothers and fathers were losing their babies to a middle-aged, 6'5", 250-pound psychopath in a clown outfit. We didn't know that the psychopath clown broke into our home 2 days ago and was hiding in the basement. I was the only child, so he thought one little girl in the house would be easy prey. He picked the wrong house that night. I heard him creeping down the hallway right outside my bedroom door. His footsteps were quiet but clumsy. The hardwood floor in the hall would always creak. My bedroom door creaked open, and I saw this tall shadow standing hunched over in my doorway. I remembered hearing my pounding heart. My eyes shifted between the killer clown and the dark shadow woman. I couldn't believe I was seeing these two nightmarish figures standing in my bedroom. One figure was evil, while the other was good. I saw his clown makeup. He had a red-painted nose, and he wore a pair of sunglasses over his chalky white face. I could see he had a beard. He had on a pink afro wig, and he was shirtless. He had an imposing physique, like a wrestler. I also saw a massive tattoo of a wolf's face on his chest. The large butcher knife he clutched in his right hand immediately caught my eyes. Even in the darkness, I could see the knife's serrated blade gleaming. He was so big that he blocked out my doorway. I didn't know what to do. There was nothing I could do but just lay there, helpless. I started imagining that I could scream for help. My imaginations were cruel. I hated my body for not moving. I hated my voice for not letting me scream. He knew I was awake because he spoke to me. "Hi there, little princess. I'm your new friend. Your mommy went away, and she asked me to take care of you." When he said my mom went away, my heart sunk deep into my chest. As he got closer to my bed, I could see something dripping off the knife, and I didn't want to know what it was. When the child killer spoke to me, his voice didn't fit his body. His voice sounded androgynous. It had a deceivingly calm, feminine quality. It's terrifying to see a mountainous man in clown makeup talk softly down to you through a teenage girl's voice. I kept thinking about Pennywise from the movie. But imagine Pennywise if he was shirtless with the body of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I closed my eyes again when I saw the killer towering over my bed, getting ready to bring his butcher knife down on my face. I expected to feel cold, sharp steel slice through my nose, but none of that happened. I shut my eyes, but I couldn't keep them shut for long. Child killer had so much of my attention that I forgot about the shadow woman who was still standing at the foot of my bed. I remembered hearing the man scream out a curse word, and then I heard a snap. I could still make out through the darkness what was happening. I saw the killer clown's arm hanging in another direction. I'll never forget his guttural, blood-curdling scream that pierced my ears. His scream echoed throughout our home. I thought that even the neighborhood could hear him. What happened next made me almost pass out from shock. I saw the dark shadow woman lifting the child killer by his throat. She hurled him into a wall, and a penetrating thud shook my bedroom. I kept hearing the man begging for his life, and he sounded so pathetic. He kept screaming out, "What are you? Please don't kill me, Mom." But the dark woman had no mercy on him. She bludgeoned him with his knife. I watched her break both of his legs. She punched him in his chest so hard that I heard the bones in his chest cave in. I heard his ribcage cracking. After a few minutes, his verbal pleading became whimpering moans of agony. I didn't know that you could break bones in the human body in so many ways. After twisting the bones around in his arms and shattering the bones in his knees, I watched the dark woman raise the child killer off his feet again. She held him over her head before shoving the butcher knife into his throat and nailing him to the wall, literally. I never blinked as I stared at what happened to the killer. I almost felt sorry for the sick son of a bitch. No, not really. The dark lady made him pay for all the children he abducted, and she made him pay for his attempt to kill me. After the violence ended in my bedroom, I watched as the shadow woman moved toward my bed. She stuck out her arms again while moving toward me. It looked like she was floating in slow motion. My heart was still pounding, even when I felt her clawed fingers breezing through my hair. When she touched my face, I could smell a familiar fragrance. It was that citrus aroma from my mother's perfume. I couldn't understand why the shadow figure smelled like my mom. I didn't understand it until later. The shadow woman hovered over me. Her lips stroked my forehead. She caressed my face for a few minutes, and then she vanished when I heard my father's panicked voice coming from downstairs. I didn't want to believe that I saw blood on the killer's knife, but it was blood. It was my mother's blood. That asshole stabbed my mother to death right before he made his way up the stairs toward my bedroom. He left my mother's body lying in the kitchen. My father stepped out of the house to get a few things at the store. When he came back home an hour later, he found my mom's body lying in a pool of blood. Her lavender, sleeveless nightgown was soaked in red. My father cried out when he saw her body. I heard him running up the steps, crying out my name. When he bolted into my room, I was already in his arms before he could switch on my bedroom light. He saw the man's body nailed to my wall, and he lost his breath. I told him what happened and what I saw. He couldn't believe it, but he had no choice. He knew that a little girl didn't have the strength to nail a 250-pound man to a wall. My father called the police, and when they arrived, they asked him a few questions. The police asked me some questions too, and they gave me some candy. I told them everything. Like my father, they stared at me. A policewoman caressed my face, and she said, "It's okay, sweetie. You just had a traumatic experience. Who you saw in your bedroom was just a good Samaritan wearing a dark costume." None of the police officers believed that I saw a dark shadow woman. They all believed that my trauma caused me to hallucinate. They even told me I might have seen my father killing the man, and I told them that my father wasn't in the house. I heard him telling my mother that he was going to the store. I heard him kiss my mom before leaving the house. Those cops couldn't believe my story. They had tons of sympathy for me, but I wanted my mother more than their sympathy. I missed my mother. I couldn't stop thinking about her fragrance. I found the perfume she wore while moving some boxes around in my attic. That sweet fragrance took me back to that night. I believe the dark figure I saw in my bedroom that night was my mother, a dead version of her. I'm 36 years old now, and I think about my mom every day. I got married to a kind and beautiful man, and we had a son. My little boy is 5 years old, and he has his mom's hazelnut eyes and his daddy's lips and dimples. I try to be an excellent mother, and I'm very protective over my little one, just like my mother was protective over me. Every night, I tuck my son into bed, and I read him a bedtime story. One night, I told him about what happened to his mom when she was 7 years old. He looked scared after I told him the story. My son is afraid of the dark, but I told him not to worry. I told him that a mother's love and protection can reach beyond death. I told him I'd always be there to protect him. I told my baby not to be frightened if he sees a dark, shadowy woman standing in the corner of his bedroom. I told him she'll watch over him while he sleeps. I also told him not to panic if he wakes up suddenly, unable to move his body. Sleep paralysis is scary at first, but I told my baby that his paralysis will be a sign, letting him know that the shadow woman is there to protect him from the things that go bump in the night. There was one thing I didn't tell my little boy. I didn't tell him that the dark, shadowy woman standing in the corner of his bedroom might be his mommy. If she dies the way her mother did. There are some places in this world where it would be forgivable to believe you may have stepped through a rift in time, where it can seem that the passage of decades goes by pleasantly unobserved by the denizens that occupy them, while also being small enough to remain unnoticed by the areas surrounding them. Other places seem to exude an almost otherworldly energy, whether it is overwhelmingly positive or unshakably negative. Depends entirely on who you ask, of course. Over the past few years, I'd spent much of my time enjoying the many offerings found in the bustling cities up north. However, life in the city eventually grew unfulfilling, and I began to romanticize about the quieter, picturesque landscapes of the South. I daydream about finding a place not so far removed from nature, a place where the spirit of nature could still thrive. I had no earthly idea what I was in for. I had been thumbing it for a while, and with the help of several friendly truckers and a cantankerous old melon farmer named Dave in his little pickup truck, I'd managed to finish descending from the mountainous reaches of Virginia and made my way into the rolling foothills of eastern North Carolina. The air was humid, but fresh, and made the cool breeze that swept through my hair that much more invigorating. I had never seen such massive stretches of tobacco before in my life, nor a more eclectic collection of automobiles, of seemingly every era passing by, some of which still looked as though they'd just rolled off of the lot. Cruising down the curves of the bleached pavement of Highway 87, in the back of that pickup, I found myself enthralled by a pair of small wooden structures that were in a nearby field. They were clearly holdouts from the past century, their history having been etched across their weathered brown boards, which appeared to be trapped in an eternal mid-collapse atop one another, and the nearby congregation of rusted-out farm equipment surrounding the husk of a Model T that now only served as ornamentation in the vacant field. They were all reminders of the days long since past. Dave pulled the red Silverado off to the side of the road and wrenched the truck's gear into park with an audible whine. I waved away the plume of red dirt lingering in the air and climbed over the tailgate of the truck to the ground below. I looked up ahead and saw that Dave had parked us close to the outskirts of a quaint little town. It didn't really look like much from where I was standing, but it was better than nothing. I walked up to the driver's side window of the cab as Dave forced down the window with a series of effortful cranks before poking his old head out, nearly knocking off his worn camouflage ball cap in the process. His sky-blue eyes were bright and wide, as well as a little mischievous when combined with his toothy grin. "Well, I guess this is where we part ways, hombre. I've got to go pick up the old lady some new seeds from the store before she has a conniption," Dave said as he rolled his eyes dramatically. His Appalachian accent added extra emphasis to his words. All right, thanks again for the lift. I appreciate it, I said. Think nothing of it. Just be careful out here. Some of the townsfolks are kind of, Dave said. He circled a finger around his temple and whistled sharply. I'll do my best. As long as they have a hotel here, I should be okay. The only one that I'm certain is still open is the old Delilah Inn. Just keep a watch out for anything weird there, okay? Dave said. I was slightly taken aback by Dave's blunt nature and raised an eyebrow in curiosity. What do you mean? I asked. I was the local telephone man around these parts, back in '72 before I was able to get the hell away from here. I was working on a job at the hotel, simple stuff, just running some line throughout the place, but I caught sight of a whole heap of black cords running up into the walls of the rooms. I followed them back, and they were all hooked up to these stacks of tape decks in a weird basement. Are you serious? I asked. As a heart attack. I never found cameras, though. I got out of there and reported it to my supervisor as soon as I finished my work. He claimed he took care of it. It didn't look that way to me, though, no sir. He probably buried it, the little bastard. Either way, I never took an assignment in that town again, and I certainly never took the wife or young ones anywhere near the place. I didn't want some pervert patting his Jimmy to me or mine. I can't blame you for that, and thanks for the heads up. I'll be sure to keep an eye out, I said. With that, the brief seriousness that had covered Dave's face abated, and he started grinning once more. Take care of yourself, kid, he said, then reached out his large, leathery hand and clasped it around mine, giving me a surprisingly powerful shake. You too, I said, as I returned the friendly grip, then stepped back so he had enough room to pull off safely. With a series of squeaks, the wobbly window rolled back up, and Dave gave me a friendly wink before turning his attention back to his truck. Even through the glass, I could hear Dave grunt as he forced the gear shift into drive before he whipped the truck around and took off down the highway back the way he'd came. I gave him one last wave goodbye before turning around and proceeding onward into town. Greetings from Delilah. The bullet-riddled sign beckoned in a fading white font. I didn't terribly welcome. As soon as I crossed into the weathered green sign signaling the town limits of Delilah, I felt a row of goosebumps began trailing up my forearms. I was half tempted to try and flag Dave down again, but I kept on walking. As I walked over a pair of rusty train tracks, I began to see the town more clearly. Despite the air of creepiness, it looked like just your standard little town. I could see what I assumed was Main Street, with its rows of brick mom-pop shops lining either side with the odd car parked here and there. I saw a few people milling about, wandering from shop to shop like some kind of vengeful spirit. They didn't look like most friendly folks, but they weren't brandishing pitchforks either, though when they noticed me, their eyes stayed locked onto me until they reached the next store. It was disconcerting, to say the least. That's when I noticed that they had a small Kmart at the other end of the street. The place can't be all that bad. What kind of evil town has a Kmart? Oh man, I am driven to kill by a mysterious force, but my budget is super tight. I could imagine one of the townsfolk saying, better put this shotgun on layaway so that I can get my murder spree on in 8-12 weeks. Oh, it's a blue light special too? Nice. I snickered at my stupid thought and started to put my worries out of my mind. I kept walking towards Main Street, stepped up the concrete curb, and followed the sidewalk as I looked around. The leftmost of the two tall rows of brick buildings had an old Coca-Cola advertisement painted along its side. The colors were faded and flaking, but that didn't keep it from standing out from its earth-toned background. The windows of the various shops all seemed to be stained dark, It reminded me of Sweet. In between the buildings, I could see a dilapidated church on a small hill, sitting not too far away from here, maybe a quarter of a mile away. That's where most of the townsfolk seemed to be, despite it being a Tuesday. The one car that passed by me during my little stroll was rather unremarkable. A little powder blue Oldsmobile that unobtrusively puttered down the quiet road. The driver, however, was a different story altogether. The face of the driver looked like some kind of vampire or demon from a John Carpenter flick. It was an older woman with a swath of grayish-black hair put up into a messy bun on top of her head. She had sharp, angular features and long, jagged yellow teeth protruding from her head. Those fangs looked like they'd been filed into points and peeked out from beneath her closed jowls. Her pale skin seemed to have some kind of wet red paint splattered all across her pointed chin and along the side of her neck. But that was not as unnerving as her cold, dead eyes, which were fixed on me with cruel intent. I felt my heart drop into my stomach as I rubbed my own eyes in an attempt to undo whatever Korean nightmare it was I was seeing. When I dared to look again, it was just a regular old lady, no fangs, no blood. She had the same dead eyes, though. I offered her a friendly wave, but she didn't return it. She just kept staring in disgust. After a moment, she proceeded on her way down the road. My eyes trailed her until she was out of sight. Why am I seeing things? Was there some kind of aerosol agent in the air making me see monsters? Did David lace his goddamn melons? No, surely not. I had a ton of questions, but no answers. My mouth was feeling as dry as the Sahara. I looked over and saw a small tavern that was apparently open. It looked like all of the other businesses on the strip, only its window had TAVERN printed on it in large white letters. Say what you will about the blandness, it got the point across. I quickly ducked inside for a well-deserved drink, but only met more strange folks. Behind the bar of the dimly lit tavern, there stood a very muscular man with a sizable beer gut polishing his glasses. The dull overhead lights gloomed off of his bald head and directly into my eyes, causing me to wince. I pulled out one of the empty bar stools and took a seat. Various power ballads of the 1980s played quietly in the background. Hi there, mind if I get a bottle of Coors? I asked. He cut his eyes at me and frowned heavily. Without breaking eye contact, he took the glass he'd been polishing and slammed it underneath the beer dispenser and pulled down on the lever, quickly filling it to the brim with the foamy amber liquid. With a low grunt, he slid it over to me, then turned and grabbed another glass to polish. Thanks, I said. How much do I owe you? The barkeep held up 3 of his sausage-like fingers, then gave me a higher-toned grunt, which I could only assume denoted satisfaction after I slid him 2 $5 bills to cover my brew and tip. It's what you do. I took a deep sip of my beverage, the refreshing fizz dance inside my nostrils. I carefully sat my beer on the little napkin in front of me and took a glance at the other customers surrounding my table. I didn't see any monsters, but what I saw didn't inspire any feelings of contentment either. An intergender scout troop in neatly pressed military-style dress sat uncomfortably ridged in all of their seats, save for one little girl with a shirt full of badges and a beret who slowly goose-stepped around them with a long ruler clutched between her black nails. It was safe to assume she was the leader of the Hitler Youths. All of their eyes followed my every movement, watching me like a cat stalking a dangling string. Say, barkeep, am I wearing something people around here find, I don't know, infuriating, or do I just have a punchable face? The man at the bar, whose cold exterior had been warmed slightly by the tip, sat his glass to the side and leaned in towards me. This town isn't friendly to new faces, he said quietly. His gruff voice carried a hint of Eastern Bloc seasoning to it. If I were you, I'd be weary, very weary. I've noticed. Any tips for a poor fool stuck here for the night? I asked before taking another sip of beer. The night? The barkeep sneered slightly, then continued. I'd get you a silver dagger, some sage, and a tub of salt. That may be enough, perhaps a few crosses, too, for luck. Whatever you do, don't go out into the night. You won't like what you see. I don't like what I'm seeing now. Sheesh. Is there some kind of taxi service I can hire to be on my way out of town? I asked. The only taxi goes from here to the graveyard. No further, he replied. Ah, how charming. No Uber? No, we ran out of Germans after the last ones disappeared, he said. Okay, what's the nearest town? I asked. A good hour away west of here, assuming you aren't hunted down for sport and beheaded before you make it out of Delilah to try. Does that happen a lot? Oh, you have no idea, he said grimly. All righty, any places around where I can score a silver knife or whatever? I asked. Despite my flippant attitude, I'm drenched in sweat. The barkeep sighed and passed me a small silver knife beneath a cloth napkin, like he was selling me drugs or something. Thanks, I said, gingerly scooping the blade up and into the inner pocket of my jacket. Finish your drink and hit the bricks. It'll be dark soon. Don't be outside when it is. I slammed back the rest of my beer and stood up slowly, watching the eyes of everyone in the room following my every movement with unsettling calmness. After paying the bartender, I quickly stood up, left the establishment, and made a break for the hotel, which was about a block away. I picked up my pace and ignored any potential surveyors surrounding me as I walked. I was quickly losing the light. How long had I been in that damn bar? I thought it was only a few minutes. The hotel stood apart from the other buildings, like a sore thumb. Because it wasn't a part of the downtown strip, like the other stores, its age was far more evident. The 3-story hotel looked more like an asylum rather than a hotel, and the stone gargoyles that lined its concrete Gothic arches gave me the distinct impression that I was being watched by their beady red eyes. Also, I noticed something red on the claws of their hands and feet. Was that paint? Please, let that just be paint. I quickly pushed past the pair of glass doors and made my way into the vestibule of the hotel. I walked past all manner of fancy ornament and reached the reception desk, where a strange man in a blood-red suit stood rather oddly, as if he'd been fused to that very spot. He wore a golden name tag on his lapel, with Tom etched into it in one of those annoyingly overly fancy scripts. His tired gaze trailed me as well, but his intent seemed to have been job-related rather than murderous. Good evening. How can I be of service? Tom asked. It was hard to differentiate if he had a speech impediment or was just a native French speaker. Maybe both. I skipped the pleasantries and procured a room as quickly as I could from Tom. Dagger in hand, I power-walked down the burgundy-colored carpeted hallway to a set of elevators, where I quickly pressed 4 on the control panel. I felt like I could hear a battalion of small footsteps behind me. I grew tense, waiting on the horde to tear me asunder, but such fears were momentarily dissuaded by the pair of gleaming silver doors that closed me off from such a fate, and I was quickly propelled up to the top floor. Once the doors reopened, I bounded for room 408 and quickly jammed the slender brass key that Tom had given me into the door's handle, causing the keyring to jingle loudly from the motion. My heart felt as though it were trying to pound itself free from my chest as I struggled to gain entry to my room. A sudden chill filled the air as lights on both ends of either hallway began to shut off one by one, heading straight for me. I'm unsure if it was the panic or what, but I swear Each burnt-out bulb was accompanied by the ghostly giggle of young children. Thankfully, as the last remaining bulb that hung directly overhead began flickering, I managed to work the troublesome lock open and rushed inside my hotel room. I promptly slammed the door closed behind me and locked it shut tight. With that done, I pressed my back against the door's white surface and hung my tired head. After a moment, I looked up and took in the brightly lit room. The single bedrooms were always rather small, but it didn't look particularly evil or murdered in, at least. As I started to feel a little calmer, the power to my room cut out completely, leaving me in total darkness. I found myself surrounded by multiple pairs of unblinking, dead eyes, glowing brightly in the dark. All I could do was scream. Content, warning, sexual assault, and violence. I looked down at the object in my hand, watching the blood drip, drip, drip from the cool silver blades to the tile floor, the white stone now stained with red. "Ava, are you all right?" Mrs. Mullen looks at me, her eyebrows furrowed and raised in concern. "You're quite pale, dear. Do you need to go to the nurse?" I'm not sick, the words sound strained. Agonizing. I blink and then squeeze my eyes shut. The blood is still there. The white tiles. I open my eyes. Mrs. Mullins still stands over me, biting her lip. "Ava, honey, it's all right. You need to go to the nurse's office. My orders, dear." "Eric, can you accompany her to the nurse, please?" "Sure, Mrs. M. I got it." Eric smiles at me. I stare at his lips. They're full and red. Too red. Bile rises to the back of my throat. I swallow hard. My eyes follow the blood dripping, dripping, dripping. A line on the floor. A trail leading to it. The body lying on the white tile. A black sneaker. "Need some help?" Eric holds his hand out to me, smiling crookedly. His green eyes glitter. I stare at his fingers for a moment. Each nail is perfectly cleaned and trimmed. His skin looks rough and dry. A strange juxtaposition. I rise to my feet, ignoring his hand. Something flashes in his eyes. I blink. He's smiling again. He stuffs his hand into his pocket. I look away, dazed, confused. What is happening? "I can go alone," I say through gritted teeth. The memory, was it a memory? Of the white tiles and the blood and the sneaker, vivid and vibrant and everywhere. I can't remember. I can't remember how I got here. I look around, dazed. Everything's blurry. There exists in this universe only the tiles and the blood. Mrs. M. told me to go with you. I think she makes a good point, honestly. You look like you're about to throw up. He turns and walks to the door. He holds it open for me, gesturing with his other hand, still smiling with that crooked little grin. A wave of nausea. I clench my fists and walk through the door stiffly. Eric follows close behind. The door shuts loudly behind us. Silence, except our footsteps against the floor. The white tiles. My eyes travel further, across the black sneakers, across black jeans, across a black leather jacket. Still, unmoving hands. Black hair. So much darkness, everywhere. Silence, everywhere. Stillness, everywhere. Here. Come this way. It's a shortcut. Eric veers down a hallway to the left, away from the main corridor that leads to the nurse's office. It's dark where he is. A light flickers above him, casting strange shadows across the walls. I pause. No, it's this way. It'll be longer that way. Come on, I've been this way 100 times. I hesitate. But Eric's green eyes soften. That smile again. It's sweeter this time. He beckons me forward. Come on. I just want to get you some help as quickly as possible. Don't want you to faint or something. A light laugh. I glance down the main corridor one last time. Another wave of nausea. He has a point. I sigh before following Eric down the narrow hallway. How did I get here? Where are we going? The blood and the tiles and the black sneakers and the black jeans and the black jacket and the black hair are everywhere. I can't remember. Eric walks ahead of me, hands in his pockets, whistling. Then he pauses in front of a yellow door on the right wall, which rests between rows of lockers. Here, he says. The shortcut. It looks like a door. What an astute observation. He laughs softly, gently. You must really be sick. I'm not. You don't have to use your energy to talk. Just follow me. We'll get you some help. I promise. He opens the door and walks inside. I don't know where he is going. I don't know why I am here. The black clothing and the blood and the white tiles dance across my eyes. Darkness, silence, drip, drip. I follow him inside. Wait, what is? The door shuts. It's dark. Black. Blood. White tiles. Black sneaker. I feel his hands. I try to shout, but I can't. Something covers my mouth. It is rough. I bite down. Hard. A swear word, whispered harshly. I taste it, then. Blood. A lot of it. Blood. Dripping, dripping, dripping. I struggle. I fight. I feel the energy burst from me, and I explode, swinging and biting and flailing and kicking, trying to shout, to scream. Black sneakers, black jeans, black jacket, black hair, green eyes, still gone. Something pinning me down against the door. I can't breathe. I feel the lips then. I taste the blood. A hand on my skin, beneath my shirt. Panic. Remember, it was beside you. On the desk. Feel for it. Stop fighting. The weapon flashes before my eyes. Dripping, dripping, dripping. No. Before that. Feel for it. Yes. The table. I see them, clearly, resting there, sitting peacefully in the light of the small office space, sitting upon a wooden desk. I stiffen, stopping my movement cold. The hands stop in surprise. My hand darts out to the left, and I feel around in the darkness. Something hard. A desk. My fingers travel across. The hand on my skin starts to move again. The hand around my neck squeezes. There, the scissors. I wrap my hands around them. Drip, drip, drip. I plunge them into his chest. Stillness. The hand stops against my skin, and the other releases my neck. I hear him gasp, and then he stumbles backwards, slipping, falling. Silence. Everything is still. I am breathing. I am the only one. Dripping. The scissors are in my hand. With my other hand, I slowly feel along the wall until I feel the light switch. I turn it on. Eric lies on the ground. Still, quiet. Black sneakers, black jeans, black jacket. Black hair, ruffled and messy. His eyes are open. Green, unmoving. I look down at the object in my hand, watching the blood drip, drip, drip from the cool silver blades to the tile floor. The white stone, now stained with red. Story 2. Forsaken, forsaken. In a dark, gloomy shadow night, shades of my former self reflect on the asphalt. What will happen to me? An unusual question indeed. Suddenly, I foresee the future, and it feels as real as the memory of the pain this has caused, Julius thought. Sometime in the past, everyone has problems, seems to be the life slogan of society. But there are exceptions, and Julius being the living example, about to taste the sweet kiss of death. Being born in a conventional household to rich parents to an unconventional upbringing, being fed with a silver spoon, never learned any discipline nor any consequences as an only child that grew into a tall, handsome, athletic young man, which developed an obnoxious disregard and a lack of remorse and empathy for others but himself. An entire takeover of the family business being promised, including a sole will, consequently having nothing to worry about, let alone having friends, even though unreal, as he doesn't care for real friendship, as well as romantic love affairs with women of a platonic and sexual nature only. With such an upbringing, taking things for granted comes natural. Little does he know, so does his destiny. Why the disregard towards people, rules, and authority? The class tour guide asked Julius while on a trip at the Mountain of the Fallen Cemetery, after repeatedly spitting, kicking, and drawing on soldiers' tombstones during a history class about their nation's fallen heroes, thinkers, and statesmen, to which he replied, "They're all forsaken." Anna Lee, the bullied girl from the opposite side of upbringing, poor, not popular, with no future other than constant suicidal thoughts, a slight hunchback, daughter of an alcoholic abusive graveyard keeper, and a deceased mother, heard that and instinctively asked Julius to stop. As for her, the dead are sacred. He replied, "Your life is that of a forsaken corpse underneath all these rocks." And furthermore, he let her know that much like these corpses rotting, nobody cares about her, even though she is alive. Struck by the painful response, as she knows the importance of keeping one's memory alive, she went home. While at home, her father, in a drunken rage, is telling Anna Lee to take over his shift at the cemetery, due to his inability as he is about to pass out. "If you want to continue living here, go to work," he shouts. Having worked with him at the cemetery in the past to help out and make a little extra cash before her mother passed away and her father fell into this demonic illness. In anger, she told him she doesn't want to, instead insisting for him to get help. Angered by it, he continues on to say, "This is why you're plagued with the terminal diseased bitch of a mother secretly wanted to die. You're a spoiled little brat that doesn't work and doesn't even take care of her own father. Get out of my fucking house," he screamed in a raspy, drunken, angry voice, tripping over the couch as he tried to throw a plate at her. Anna Lee ran out of the house into the rainy night. Doing so, she didn't know how much she cried due to the heavy rain. As the rain calmed, so did she, and the night turned into a mistful, foggy one. Having no friends, her only escape was the cemetery her mother was resting in. She sat there, talking to her, as if those she felt is the only person listening. In fact, dead people were the only ones that understood her, she felt, as she was seemingly the only one that keeps the memory of the dead alive, even though in an obsessive way, wishfully thinking that if she does it hard enough, they've come to live. Growing up in her environment, fairy tales, even if dark, is an excellent escape mechanism. It's how she copes with fear of dying herself while going through life unnoticed seems to be a bigger threat. She knew she had to do something, take destiny into her own hands, let the people pay that treat the dead so disrespectfully while going through life without aftermath, nor struggles themselves, while never being disrespected themselves, instantly thinking of Julius. She felt like killing herself, so she can be reunited with her mother and be one with the Forsaken. But she didn't want to let Julius to get away with hurting and bullying her and others in the past as well as in the future. He must pay. She has to make sure he suffers, as she always did, or perhaps greater. She imagined her mother's spirit saying, "Come join us in eternity. Let others live, but take a little of their evil spirit away, to bury so you can leave the world a better place. Leave your father alone, as he will be punished enough," she imagined further. One night, after watching Julius coming back from a cheating love affair, he got into his car to drive home. Anna Lee has made up her mind to take her own life, which shall be caused by him, so he can live plagued with guilt, psychological instability ruining his life, possibly ending up in prison. His path home led through a dark street surrounded by forests outside of town. Anna Lee hid behind a tree when she finally saw his car approaching. She jumped in front of the car, hoping to hit her into her certain death. Instead, Julius reacted and instinctively drove to the side, off the road, into a tree. Anna Lee, in total adrenaline and shock, ran away from the scene, as she didn't want to help him in case he survived, however certain that she had killed him. 6 months later, Julius woke up from his coma. He survived the crash. Outside of several fractured bones, a concussion, a broken rib, and a broken leg, he suffered a rare kind of amnesia. He couldn't remember anything past the day after the accident, however. He did see the future, and it was dark. He saw his whole life running a movie. His future wife begins an affair as he is incapable of an emotional relationship, ultimately falling out of love with him. He, on the other hand, wants desperately to stay with her, because that is the condition for taking over the family business, as he would be incapable of running it with the lack of people skills and maturity. The one way he thinks how to save the marriage, without it ending in divorce, is to try to have a child, which his wife agrees to but ends up in miscarriage. As a result of that, he will fall into alcoholism, abusing his wife, and blaming her for the miscarriage, ultimately ending up in divorce. Unaware that his future destiny is a result of his bad behavior in the past, he grows to become a greater demon than his inner ones. He is written off the parents' will, and he will be falling more into drug and alcohol abuse, fear, anxiety, and into total insanity. In a parallel timeline, Anna Lee saw the suicide survival as a sign, a mission, perhaps one to be lords of destiny for the unjust, unliving, and the forsaken. She is last seen at the cemetery, talking to the dead, asking for further telepathic inspirations to forsake the evil spirits that are still among us. Story 3. King Animal. He lived but knew he was not of them. The whole village was a tribe that turned to beasts at night. It was the curse, the pact so ancient. It protected in the days of war, and among men he was dejected until he made a decision, knowing somehow he didn't belong. In a village far away, he would procure a charm that would make him invisible, unseen by eyes of men. Sufficiency for each day, for he would steal only what he wanted, he would steal. The native doctor made it clear that Ase was so high, he could tell the rest of the world what the weather was like up there. The charm would be prepared. It was fate. He couldn't escape being turned into a beast, one way or the other, as a matter of fact. In this case, not the distorted thing his people shaped to, but a pig. The witch doctor's best bet it was. He had agreed to turn into this astral pig, so he go outside the radar of the enemy. Some couldn't go higher, and some couldn't go deeper either. He had to go to the marketplace in the night, when ghosts also came to trade, and the uninitiated couldn't tell the natures apart. The pig he had bought, he had banged on his laps and mounted a commercial motorbike. That was to be the astral counterpart of him, a second personality. It was remonstrating. His pig self somehow managed to wrench off and went scampering. He chased and got it back all right. The native doctor told him he had to accept his fate and let be made this pig and eaten. That way, he would be lowered hellward, where with his abilities gained, he would acquire powers truly incredible, including invisibility. He was predestined to rule. Right in front of him, the painted eye ate the animal up, and he had to spend the night at the sanctum. And that night, he had another dream. He was at school and was accused of a certain offense. It was not clear. Something about poke-nosing. He was to choose to let be flogged and remain in the school or be expelled. He chose to rather leave. Then he woke up. To the street he took it, but it wasn't easy to know whether it was business as usual for a young man no one loved. The first person, no notice. He could pick up a melon to see if the dealer by the stand would notice, but he hated to steal. Second person, this time a man, he greeted. The man responded. So the pig ritual didn't work. I was meant to be unseen. He would be busting the pseudo-soothsayer when he saw him again. However, when he got to the shrine, the witch doctor asked him if he had any strange experiences he didn't tell, especially the night he slept under the watch of the carved gods. The native doctor stared at the young man in front of him. Now he knew he was dealing with a psychic leftist. When Ase first came to him, he told the sorcerer his right foot kicked when he received a bad sign. To everyone else, it was the left foot. As the young man narrated his dream, he knew this man was truly a glitch. He chose leaving the school over a little whipping. You ruined it. Going back to school means being set back. Getting flogged means being relegated to the level to be a pig. And you resisted? Pulling himself together, he shooed him out. What nonsense. But he was back at the soothsayers. This medicine man who couldn't send nothing to Hades. They spoke over the phone, since his stubborn soul insisted on soaring. He was going to prepare him another charm, this time with a kite. Just soar, but come down once in a while, you oaf. Again, he set out to get the kite. The kite he brought was a female one. Oh, you're a bloke. Or didn't common sense tell you the kite was you? Symbolism that was the essence in medicine making. Why didn't he just specify from the outset? Is this idiot not just biding time? He left the jazzman again and hid all day with a boat that ducked by the swamp near the river. There he made a fire. As the fire blazed and swooshed in the southwest wind, he saw the hawks begin to soar. Then he smoked and waited. The male kites were a little more catchy and bigger. It was in one of the low trees of the mangrove, and one of them must be caught when it came to roost. So he waited for it to come and shot it. When the entrails were prepared, he would tie the charm around the waist. Needless to say, it didn't work. He had learned to use the internet by now and could work from home in seclusion. Then AS once told him he needed a DNA test, for it was obvious he was not of that clan. Even at that, if he found out his father was not his father, how could he find the real one? And his father hated him. The black sheep. The disgrace to the darkness. Even then, he still refused to die, availing his father the back seat in the coven. He couldn't come near him. How much more take a DNA sample? The last time he went to the medicine man to tell him the kite thing didn't work was when he knew he had to strangle this wizard. They were all the same. How could this juju dude tell him to kill and get the 2 hearts of blood twins? He watched that filthy, cola nut-stained mouth say it would mean linking him simultaneously with the above and what's below. Balderdash. Now where is the money? He would throw the rest of the things outside until these villagers came to settle stuff. But he knew what they would say. They'd say to return so the elders could talk and decide when the seeker would get back his money worth about $1,000. But he knew he wouldn't last a minute there if he returned. But with his condition, with his village people, he was dead anyways. 2 villages against 1 man. Pretending to be operating the phone to check a text message, he put the device on record and videoed the illiterate repeat himself about murdering innocent kids. He got him. This was going to the police unless he gave him back the ritual charge. He turned to go, looking resolute, knowing he got this man and who would beg him to wait. Wait. At least I know how to make you find your clan. Never can tell why your late mother never fit in. Only a woman can tell who her son's father really is, he said, raising his hands. Fingernails, son. The hair, a drop of your blood. Don't think I'm crazy. I could do a check right now. It's going to work, my friend. Now this idiot is going to perform a DNA test here. In spite of himself, he was going to laugh. Now he was going to conjure some advanced lab test here, while labs couldn't still test samples in Nigeria. His blood, his nails, all in a clay platter. 3 animal skins. His thoughts were far away. He could hear the witch doctor telling him he was lucky that he belonged to any nation on earth, at least. He was trying to be funny, asking if his mother was too beautiful to stick to just one. He could punch him. He hovered the animal skins, and his feeble frame almost fell over. Then he saw his young blood begin to act, turning black first, under the skin of a monkey, then the skin of a dog, then the skin of a python. The medicine man looked up with veins snaking his face. You're lucky, he said. At least you will find your people. He was still to process it. What did the hides of animals have to do with this? Was this evolution theory? He had been told the spirits of man incarnated in the wombs of highly developed apes who kicked them away once they realized these offspring with 5 fingers, rather that 4 had the knack for standing erect. Now the dog and the snake. What? Blah, blah, blah. Where? The old man seemed detached. He looked a little startled, as though his client shouldn't still be here. Speaking with so much ardor, he said, they tell you in your Bible that the blood is the soul, and you wonder why. It is the means by which the spirit expresses through your blood radiations. The soil you belong to. I know exactly where you come from. There's only one class that doesn't eat the 3. In that place, you will find peace. These 3 things you should abstain from: the monkey, the snake, and the dog. So near the campus, where he found students from all walks of life, ate monkey meat and drank gin. Out in the ghetto, at the bush bar, where some of the tribesmen from the Niger Delta sold dog soup. In the farm, where his Ghanaian friend farmed snakes, he had been eating his life's existentialistic answers. The witch doctor said only royalty forbade the 3, and he had the birthright to kingship, as blue-blooded as they come. It couldn't be his own king. But wait, he heard the story, how his mother claimed she ran from the house to save a 2-week-old pregnancy from the battering husband, and then returned looking pregnant. And this old flames must still be some pagan and uncivilized kingdom, for in this era, who abstained from anything. He couldn't be a pig, he couldn't be a kite, but at least he could be a caveman. He had abstained from meats for 90 days, and then, in a kind of, it wasn't a dream. I wasn't a trance and experience, if you like, but he saw it, a dream quite right for dynasty. Your mind has become numb to the screams that should keep you up at night. Even the bed you are on is foreign to you. You think, how can I not remember where I am? Those thoughts escape your mind as humans in coats come near you. You assume they're human, as they look similar to you, but how sure can you be? One of the humans, the one with a soothing voice and short hair that you feel connected to, asks you how you are this morning. You respond and say that you still do not know many things. When the soothing human touches your cheek, you have a memory. To be clear, this is not a memory of what you knew. It never is, and it never will be. Rather, this memory is something that will happen. These humans, in their weird clothing, told you that. They also said that they would never lie to you, but somehow you doubt their words. Another human, one with a harsh voice that strikes fear in your heart, asks you to explain the memory in detail. That's when you enter the trance. You hate the trance, but it is the only way to explain what you see. Your eyes roll back into your head, and the world becomes silent. The trance is a strange thing. The humans tell you that you have a gift, but you only see it as a curse. In this trance, you cannot control anything. However, everything that happens in this trance happens to you in real time. If you fall, you get bruised on the bed. If you get hugged, you feel the warmth on the bed. If you die, well, no one knows. The humans use this to their advantage, and you know that something is wrong. The humans tell you it is for the greater good, but you feel that something is off. They say that you can prevent disasters from happening. You know that it might be because they did their job well, but you ignore it because these humans have treated you well. You ignore it for your own good. Usually, the trance brings you to a park or a crowd of people. Sometimes you move through easily. Sometimes you can barely move at all. Sometimes the trance shows you happy moments, and sometimes it shows you terror. The thing is, this one instance is unlike what you usually experience. You are staring at yourself. For the first time, you can see what you look like in your bed. You can see beyond the door. You are free. The humans are writing down your trance, and then you hear a rumble from the hallway. You do not want to leave, but you have no choice. You leave the humans and your body and go into the hallway. You see other humans with papers and with technology you've never seen before. You must keep walking, and the noise is only getting stronger. You step outside, and your face is warmer than usual. You turn around and the building is on fire. You walk away from the building and into a forest where your walk turns into a sprint. A loud noise echoes through the woods, and you feel a small object fly past your cheek. Another noise, like thunder, echoes through the trees. This time, you watch a deer fall to the ground. You keep sprinting and trip down a hill, getting hit with roots, rocks, and mud. The thunder moves past you, except it isn't thunder at all. You see humans with what looks like rods or sticks that shoot lightning and fire. You are dirty, but the trance brought you to a lake. You jump into the lake to clean yourself, and as you are wiping dirt off your body, you see someone standing on the shore. You try to swim away, but a current pulls you to the person. You realize that it is yourself. You try to speak, but this version of you covers your mouth. Silence, it says to you. Listen to my words carefully. You must not repeat what you have seen here. As you try to ask questions, you realize your mouth is sealed shut. All the more reason to keep you silent. The other version of you continues to speak. In 3 days' time, all of this will happen to you. The lab will be set on fire by liberators, and you will escape. The doctors will try to shoot you down, but you will lose them in the lake. The version of you brings you to a world you've never seen before. After the lake, you will come here. It is where all the entranced go. You need to ask questions, but your mouth is sealed shut. The other version of you stares into your eyes. You realize that their eyes are glowing. 2 serpents move around your body. You want to scream, but the other you makes you stay calm. When the serpents inspect you, do not make a sound. You will live. The serpents then disappear. The other you's eyes change to purple. Should you not follow these instructions, your life as you know it will be over. Now, when you wake up, you must tell them that you saw a game. Men were running around outside, and one team won 25 points. You must tell them it was the team from Boston. No more information than that, and no less. Got it? You nod. The other, you opens their mouth, and a beam of light builds up. You go to scream, but then your head is engulfed. You wake up from the trance panicking. The humans are staring at you. You have so many questions about your trance, but none of them can be answered. This vision has never happened before, and the humans never told you it could. We need an answer. The stern human never could wait a moment. You tell as much as you could, and by the end of the session, they believe that you saw the outcome of a game they called baseball. The humans leave, like they always do, and they told you they'd be back later for another session. The one you connect with winks at you. You blush. In the meantime, you try to sleep again. When you sleep, you rarely dream about anything. This one occasion, though, you relive what you saw in the trance. This time, there was a lot more chaos. Instead of leaving the building calmly, you were being chased. Instead of seeing yourself in the lake, you were alone. Nothing was the same, but you somehow know that you must follow this update of the escape. Nothing should cloud your judgment. By the 3rd day, you were wondering when the liberators were coming. You were already visited by the humans, and you haven't had a vision like that since. Suddenly, you hear the thunder from your dream. You hear the screams of humans, and this was not a vision. This was real life. You saw humans being killed out your window, and you felt the door warm. It became unsafe to leave by your door, which is not what your vision had in mind. Knowing what the other you said, you choose to leave out your door. You run through the building, like in your dream, and you exit through the front. The burning on your face was not painful, but it wasn't pleasant. Suddenly, men with their lightning sticks came to knock you down. Like your vision said, you roll down the hill and lose them in the lake. Unlike your vision, you did not know which way you should go to the safe haven, so you run. As you run through the trees, you begin to have another vision. You try to fight it, for time is your biggest ally. You are unable to hold it back for long, so you scale a tree to hide in. Your eyes roll back, and a vision commands your body. This time, it is your other version telling you to make the trip alone. The other you brings you through the paths you must take, and now you know where to go in order to survive. When you snap out of the trance, you climb down the tree and once again sprint. You turn a left through the forest, and you immediately begin to recognize everything. You see a yellow bush that you walked past in the trance, and you continue to run. You jump over fallen logs and duck under branches. something stops you. You hear a rattle. Something slimy slides up your leg and around your arm. Your vision saw 2 snakes, but there is only one now. It leaves you alone, and as soon as it leaves, you hear a familiar voice. It's your friend from the building. I'm sorry for what we've done to you, he starts. His eyes look sincere, but he looks desperate as well. I didn't mean to hurt you. They said it was for research. They said you would get your memories back. They lied to me too. Please take me with you. What do you do? If you leave him here, he could die. On the other hand, your trance told you to travel alone. You begin racing as a tree around you catches on fire. You hear other humans shouting from the distance. They have the sticks that shoot lightning, and you cannot wait any longer. You decide to take your friend and run. The 2 of you run over a bridge and cut the ropes holding it up. This will delay the team chasing after you, but you can take a moment to breathe. Your friend fills you in on certain things, such as those humans are called soldiers. You learn other things, like those lightning stick rods are called guns and can be deadly. It doesn't mean they are, though. You notice your friend has one, but only for protection. Your friend also tells you that his name is Juno. You do not know your name, but Juno tells you that your file name was EV308. So, he nicknames you E. You like that name. Finally, after a long while of walking, you get to the town. You see children running and humans having a wonderful time. It is the safe haven that your other self talked to you about. Here, the entranced regain their past and can live on. You want that too. You want that for you and your great friend, Juno. But you hear a click from behind you. Juno says that he's sorry, but there can't be any loose ends. You feel a tear fall down your cheek as you recognize the betrayal. You take in a sigh before you collapse to the ground. Your last sight is those soldiers running toward the village. You did not ignore the second snake like your subconscious told you to. Instead, you took the bait. Instead, you had to answer with your life. You see a bright light, and you decide to walk towards it. You wake up in the room again. With every second, you forget what happened. You forget instructions, emotions, and everything else. You realize that your mind has become numb to the screams that should keep you up at night. The bed you are on is even foreign to you. You think, how can I not remember where I am? 2. Used to it. A thick, red liquid rolled down to Evan's right cheek. He wiped it with his hand covered with bruises and rubbed it between his fingers. The room was filled with his mother's chaotic and worried steps. Her breath was going off and on, like nylon light that hangs on the kitchen ceiling. What a poor child, she cried. His eyes were watching her as she displeased to the living room with the same worried steps. When she came back, she was carrying that box which he used to see in the CC's kind of situations. The box with the red cross. His mother, Samantha, took a gaze and a bottle from the box. Ouch, Mom, it's strings, he screamed. Samantha didn't stop, but she continued with her work. It's for cleaning, honey. So, the germs. The germs would die and won't cause any trouble. I know, Mom. You told me like 100 times. Evan's taut voice came interrupting her explanation. Faint smile appeared in her pale, oval-shaped face, and her green eyes had a pitiful expression for a moment. She picked up the bandage and wrapped it around his head injury. I'm not bad, Mom. Evan's rounded black eyes looked at his mother as they are seeking for usual comfort. She kneed down to his head and gave him a soft and warm kiss. I know, baby, I know. Evan's life was already hell when he born. People around him just hated him for no reason. He had never hurt others or said stupid things. He never expressed oblique thoughts to anyone. People hated him because he was Evan, the boy who will be like the devil himself, the old hex said when he born. Well, that's just nonsense. How could a chubby face like Evan be a demon? He's that kind of kid who is scared of butterflies and even his own shadow. He also let a wandering frog escape from the house, so his mother won't freak out and kill it. Just nonsense. He doesn't know who his father is. All he knew is his mother gets angry whenever he mentioned his father. He heard some of the boys who bullied him saying his mother was too weak to defend her soul, so she surrounded her soul to demon. He ripped her clothes and beaten her. For that, his grandparents didn't let her stay in the house, and she moved to live alone. They said he was executed because, well, obviously he was a demon. Some said he ran away. But for 10 years old Evan, that crappy talk didn't get to him. He just loves his mother. He didn't have a happy childhood like other kids. Schools refused to let him attend classes. Kids didn't let him play in park and just have a good time with himself. Adults just ignored him. His grandparents didn't want to see him, and kids would throw stones at him when they see him. But all of that didn't matter. He has his mother by his side. The smell of creamy potato soup was good as always. His mother never forget to make him his favorite meal, even when she is tired. She served his plate, "Eat, baby, before it gets cold." Evan put his spoon on the plate and ate. How could a boy who loves potato soup be a demon? He thought, "Thank you, Mom. It tastes great." He showed her the snack she adores. She sat down beside him gently, like a queen and joy darling. The bubbles of soap were flying everywhere. Evan kept rubbing his skin and clean that sticky dirt on his knee. He didn't want his mother to take him a bath. He is 10 years old, a man, as he thought, and he will do whatever he could so his mother could have some rest. Maybe I will become a rich man and make my mother happy. That old mean hex was jealous. She told everyone that I will become a bad person, right? Evan smiled with that thought and whistled in joy. I told you. I gave it to him yesterday and it didn't work. Are you sure it is effective, Dad? Samantha was holding the phone and crying. She listened to the other side of the phone. Are you sure? Her trembling voice rose. Okay, I will wait until tomorrow. Yes, I did give him the exact dose you said. I mixed it with his food. Seconds of silence. Yes, thank you. She hangs up the phone. She covered her face with her trembling hands, and she was crying in silence. It will be okay. Just act normal. He will be happy with this. I'm going to be happy. She was talking to herself. Everything was still. The living room was silent, and the nylon light kept bright this night. Samantha was sinking in her memories. Being a single mother is not the problem. It's a problem when you left alone and hurt. Where he could be now. The one she trusted. Is he happy where he is now? She should listen to her parents. She knew he wasn't going to be hers, but she refused to listen to her mind voice. His fault. All of this is his fault. No, it was that ugly old hex fault. She shouldn't say those things to a child. She couldn't stand seeing her child get all those bruises. And herself. The harassment at work, the looks at streets, and the long time spent alone. She wanted to be happy.